It is uncanny how human beings in the marketplace of of work, the work marketplace, but also we could equate this to like the dating marketplace too. We have an uncanny ability to figure out where we stand in that pecking order. And it's rare that you're ever going to find someone that deserves $150,000 salary based on their skill set and their work ethic, but that is willing to accept $75,000. And sometimes you'll have the opposite, where someone wants some extraordinary number and their resume doesn't call for that. They may be delusional, but generally I find that you get what you pay for, and I've learned that in all of our hiring as well. When we've brought in someone that's at a low salary amount. Maybe they end up being good, but we have to put a lot of time into training them as well. So
So just for the people who are watching, so you captain a 50-meter boat, 150 foot.
164. So, we have right now we have 11, 12 crew, but some of them are rotational. Myself, engineer, chef, or rotation. We work roughly 6 weeks on, 6 weeks off. But, the team is really getting back to that. That's the most important thing. What we've found, and what I've found over the years, same thing in any business, is that the skill set is not so much important as the right fit. Because if the personality conflicts, if someone's there fighting with everyone and they have all the skills in the world, you're not going to get anything done.
I've noticed that. Yeah. So I'll give you a quick example of this. You'll appreciate this. So Jaron and I share the same property manager, and my fiance is a general contractor and interior designer here locally. And so she's got her crew. Our property manager has his crew. And I've tried to be like, oh, I really love this guy that our property manager is using. Dana, my fiance, hey, you should use him. Use him, give him some more work, right? And then we put those two together. Doesn't work. And vice versa. You take some good guys from Dana's crew and you say, Aaron, go ahead, our property manager, use these guys, put them in play. They're great. You're going to like them. That it's just a communication thing. It's a personality thing. And even though these two guys are great, or these different people are great in their respective roles elsewhere, when you mix and match, it just doesn't happen. Yeah. It's crazy.
There's also what I call, there's a certain personality type, and I see it periodically coming on board different teams that I am aware of, that friends or entrepreneurs, or I've seen it on my team as well, and I call them agents of chaos. Mm-hmm. And they come in and they're Tasmanian devils, and like you said, many times, oddly enough, they are of a high skill set, and that's the way they survive, is because they are so good at what they do, and otherwise they'd be fired immediately because of their antics. And it's always, as a manager, it's always hard to decide if you do want to let them go, because they are so competent at their job. So the competency kind of outweighs the chaos that they bring to the team, but it's tough. Those are always the hard ones to
skills can
part
be
ways
taught.
with.
Skills can be taught. Temperament is a little bbit tougher. Can't really teach that. That's something someone has to surpass or work on. Yeah. Especially if they're a hothead or they're very introverted and they're not very good at communicating. I've had people that were really good, but they were poor at communicating. It usually comes down to that, whether someone is a high skill set and like you said, agent of chaos. But if they got a high skill set, they're still not very good at communicating what they want, what the expectation is for everyone else, especially if they're in a leadership position.
Yeah. And the longer you keep those people in play, it's even harder to get rid of them, because they just develop so much internal knowledge of the business. It's like they're getting better.
Institutional knowledge.
Yeah, that's my point. So,
but then it can also, the bad part is it really can drive away the good ones.
Exactly.
The other ones that are also of a high skill set, that are more calm, and but people who have the right mindset, they don't want to be around that for long term. So sometimes it's hard to cut that cancer out.
Yeah, all the good apples go away and you're stuck with the rotten.
With the rotten ones,
Yeah, and even like for me on the sales team side, it's like if you have one guy that's like not performing, and you don't have this like massive this group that's performing, it like everybody starts to kind of perform less.
Yes.
So it's a real problem. That's a big thing that we're like trying to figure out. Like, how do we get a sales team that really jives and really brings that high energy and competes with each other, friendly competition. Like, oh man, X just did this many deals this month, and it shows and it demonstrates, well, this system works that Larry's created because he's doing X or she's doing X, and I can get there. And so you need that balance, and I think sometimes for me personally, it's hard to get to where I'm at right now, because we need more people in the roles to make that happen.
I think if you have a good system in place and you have good people in place, one person is down, they'll all lift each other up and go, hey, try this. You know, they won't be trying to step on and out-compete each other. They'll be like, hey, as a group, we can do 10x more than we are. And especially on the boats, because we all also have to live together.
That's what I was going to say. This is way more intense for you.
If someone has a personality conflict, it's because we have heads of department and stuff like that. We have usually the deck department, which is the chief officer, the galley department, which is the chef, the interior department, which is the chief stewardess, and the engineering department is the engineer. But and there's a leadership in each one of those, and they all have to communicate with each other. And one of my main things is, don't make your problems mine, because if it is a problem and it's small, I don't want to hear about the little dramas. Go to your superior and say, hey, we have an issue with this. We need to work it out. If they can't work it out, and it comes all the way up to me, then I have to work it out for you. And generally, they don't like the solution I come up with.
Yeah.
Sometimes that solution is one less team member.
Mine's going to be quick, or two, or three, or whatever. You know, because
sometimes you have to clean house.
So, because if all those people don't get along, it's detrimental for the team. You know,
if you are, let's say you said that you told us offline that you were in Alaska recently, and the boat was coming back from Alaska down British Columbia. But let's say you had a problem. And you wanted to exit two of the team members, you then communicate with your team here in Florida to find two new substitute team members to fly out there, and then you let them know, and then you just pull into the port and say goodbye, thank you?
Yeah.
How does that work?
Usually we try to ride it out until we're going to the next
big,
place.
Big port.
But usually, because we've myself and the other captain, we have extensive networks, and other people we were involved with have pretty extensive networks. Since it's a small, relatively cottage industry, we kind of expand our networks first because we want to get somebody we know. Same thing you do in business, you want to deal with people that you know, like, and trust.
Sure.
So basically we go out with those networks first, and if we find somebody, then the next place we have a plane ticket, and they usually have a couple hours to get off the boat. Because you don't want them hanging around too long, especially if they don't want to be there. You know, it's just really detrimental to everyone else. It can be such a big negative pull down to everyone.
Got it.
You know, and even if you have to run with a lighter crew for a little bit, you'd be surprised at how much better everyone else is. Especially if
they'll step up.
Everyone's moving away from these people and avoiding them.
Got it.
You can't have a cohesive team if
they're not productive anyways at that point.
People are avoiding people.
So that I mean speaks to, you know, you've taken those skill sets and those experiences and translated them into real estate and the e-commerce business. I mean, you got to build teams, you got to network, right? So when I don't actually know the answer to this. So how has it been over the past 4 years? Like, how are you doing with the syndication? Where's it going?
Well, I'm currently raising capital for a couple of new self-storage developments, and that's a recent development. Just kind of diversifying into other asset classes, just because I've always liked self-storage, and it's when you don't have any tenants, and it's less complex, but it has its other complexities as well. But for the most part, it's been multifamily. We closed on a 65 unit earlier this year. I was helping raise capital for a deal in Houston and a deal in Oklahoma. I'm doing our investor relations there, but those two didn't close, as it happens sometimes. But I chalk it up all as a new learning experience, because last year was kind of a tough year for a lot, with all the rates going up and inflation being high and everything else. But the way I look at it is, I've never been one to kind of step down from a challenge, because if this is the hardest time to raise capital and put deals together, when I do it now, it's going to make it easier when it booms again.
And you'll be ready.
Yeah.
Yeah. So syndication is let's define that for the group, and then I want to hear how you started and how you kind of put this together, and what's basically where you're at now. Okay, you kind of mentioned.
Well, basically, syndication is basically a few people getting together to buy a larger property, where we all pool our money together. You have general partners, which run the deal and which they do all the operations, and the limited partners, they put in the money, and they're really kind of hands-off, passive for the most part. And the GP, depending on what the split is between the investors, and it can be a range of a lot of different things. Basically, everybody pools their resources together, and you have, on the GP team, you have acquisitions, you have capital raisers, you have people that organize the loan, because it's really, when you get to the commercial level, it's a team effort. You can't really do it all yourself. If you try to, you're probably not going to do it well. And so everyone has to have segmented duties. And that's basically it in a nutshell, everyone pooling their money together to buy a larger property.
So how did you get the first opportunity to basically work with the team to help them raise capital? And I'm guessing then you earned your right to have a GP position, and maybe you put some money into the deal as well?
Yes, on the first couple of deals, I brought some money and I raised some money.
Okay.
And before that, I did a couple of joint ventures, joint ventures is basically the same thing as a syndication, except for everyone's an active participant. Like myself and us three here, we've seen an apartment we want to buy. We each put in X amount of money, and we close on
straight clean splits.
Yeah, straight clean. Yep. And I might be doing the property management. You might be doing outsourced, resourcing a lot of the other things, the loan. You might be doing other things like finding the tenants or what have you. We all have split duties, but we all have to be active, or it's not it's technically more of a syndication. So you have to be very careful with that with the SEC.
And typically what I've heard is joint ventures should be about 5 partners or less.
Or less,
typically,
yes.
That's kind of the IRS rules are around that. And then there's, of course, with a JV, there's no GP-LP split is what we're saying. Everyone has equal equity in it.
Everyone has,
or
not necessarily equal equity.
Whatever they bought in
whatever
for.
The split is
whatever the
based
split
on
is,
there.
right. Exactly.
But what I found...
There's no sweat equity.
Yeah, what I found with the joint ventures, it's good to have an odd number of people, especially when it comes to the operating agreement.
Mm-hmm. For voting.
You have a certain amount of votes for each one, so that way you can have majority rule if you want to sell it.
Yeah.
If one partner is not a right fit, then you can sell it, you can refinance it, you can do those things as long as you have the majority decision.
So either 3 or 5.
3 or 5.
Yeah, it's typically
that makes
the best
sense.
numbers.
It's a good point.
It's
so those were the first deals you did. You JV'd on 2 deals.
A couple different, an 8-unit and a 13-unit.
Where were those at?
One was in West Palm Beach, the 8-unit, and the 13-unit we still have is in Port Orange, which is near Daytona.
Oh, cool. Okay.
And that one's going great. Great partners. And actually, the partner that brought me in, she brought me in for the 8-unit, and we... in 8 months, we ended up selling that one just because the timing was right and everything else, and it ended up being a bigger lift than we anticipated. And we all were kind of not necessarily on the same page, so it just made sense.
Was it a profitable deal when you exited?
Yes, we all probably 3x or more money in
Great.
8 months.
In 8 months?
Yeah.
Wow.
Giddy up.
When we sold it right before the rates went up, May 31st, 2021.
Okay,
So-
great. Good timing.
So and sometimes you get lucky.
Yeah.
You get a break.
Sure.
And that opened it up to me being able to put some of that money into some of these syndications.
Did you
And
1031 some of the money or no? You
I
took it
just
out?
went
Okay.
straight into
Got it.
these other deals because I wasn't sure what I was going to do at that point. And I kind of with the way that one was, it was a huge amount of work, and I realized that I don't really want to be as active, especially working on the boats. You know, I was sometimes the contractor. It was during COVID. The contractors, some of them didn't show up.
Mm-hmm.
You know, some of them didn't even call back or anything. So myself and the partners were there late at night. You know, I'm driving to the boat early in the morning. I'm there 5 in the morning checking stuff. I'm going there on the way home. You know, all that stuff. So it's like there's got to be a better way.
Burning the candle at both ends. You can only do that for so long.
Yeah, and we did it because we had to, and it worked out fine. You know, I'm one of those whatever it takes kind of people. You just do it.
Yep.
And you just gut it through, and then you get done.
You learn your lessons.
Reassess later. You know, and so I started focusing more on the capital raising and investor relations, asset management, because I can do that from anywhere. And I know a lot of people want to do real estate, so I want to get away from their other job. I love what I do. I love being a captain. I love being on the water. And I love real estate too. So I'm going to do both of them until they tell me I can't. You know, and so with that, that's how it kind of transitioned into that. So I started, you know, doing more networking, which I highly recommend to anyone, no matter what you're doing. There's a group for it. Go find them on Facebook. Go find them on social media. Go find them in your local area. If there's not one, make one.
Yeah.
You know,
I mean, that's part of the value of this podcast, right? We get to meet a whole bunch of people.
Yeah.
For me, it's been valuable. It's been great. Besides, and it helps us build our network because people get to watch these videos and get to know us a little bit too. But I agree with that. That's huge. And there's so many local investor networks.
Yes.
And if you get in with those guys, you'd be surprised at what you could do.
And there's something to be said about just keep showing up, show up often, show up early.
Yep.
You know, and just keep showing up.
That's a thing.
That's the thing. If you're consistent with anything else, just keep showing up, keep talking to people. You're going to learn. You're putting yourself in the room with people that are doing this stuff already. So eventually you'll be doing it.
You know, I go to those local brick meetings with.
That's the Boca Real Estate Investor Club. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
With David Dweck.
Yep. And so David's a great dude. And I've taken away just pieces of like just tactics on marketing from these guys that are just standing up talking about, you know, some of the things they're doing. The last one I was at, I took some strategy from one of the guys that was just talking, and he, you know, it was like, you know, 10 seconds. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. Let me go look into that. Pulled it, executed on it, and it's working. You know,
awesome.
So it's just even like when it's not exactly. So I'm obviously an investor. I call my day job being a broker, which is the real job. Your day job is being a captain. Your day job is being an attorney, and then we're investing in real estate, and that's the side hustle, right? So even if like I'm at that brick investment meeting for like the side hustle purposes, the synergies are great, you know, and you can really apply.
Well, I'll give you an example. Is Larry brought me a possible flip deal. I'm not really a flipper. That's not really my core competency. I'm an attorney first during the day, 8 to 5. But then I love multifamily. I'm kind of a long-term investor. Also want to be working in syndication when the time is right, you know, when rates come down a little more. But I've done a couple flips before, but Larry brought this to me and mentioned it and said, hey, I found a property up in Palm Beach Gardens, good price. A lot of work to do, though. It's filled with mold. The roof had a lot of leaks in it. And so I went to the property and I brought my good friend who does professionally do flips. And I said, you know, is this something that you'd be interested in? I ran some numbers. My buddy Chris also ran some numbers, too. We compared numbers. It looked like there was a lot of meat on the bone. We pulled the trigger on it, bought it in September, put $125,000 into it, bought a property for $400,000. And then we sold it in early January for $775,000. We made $182,000 divided by 2, so 91 each in 4 months.
Nice.
Not bad. But my point in saying all that is not bragging, but it's my connection with Larry. I'm just showing up, and he's bringing this to my attention. And then I brought on a partner and was able to do a flip that made some nice money in a short period of time. it's not my core competency, but
Yeah.
being there, showing up, kind of networking and having those opportunities and seizing those opportunities when they
Every
come in front of me.
opportunity I've received has been from networking. You know, when I first heard about apartments and multifamily, it was actually a friend of a friend. He was here in Fort Lauderdale, and we were having some drinks on the beach, and he told me the story. He had this 46 unit that he bought and sold in Houston, Texas, and he made like a couple of $1 million. And I said, "You can do that?" I said, "Yeah, you can do that. I did it. I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm nobody. I figured it out. I did it. Me and my brother." And I was like, that was kind of my aha moment. And then I started going to all the meetups, and I got a little discouraged at first because it was at the time where there were so many meetups, and every one of them kind of funneled you to the back of the room. And it's probably around when I met you. They funneled you to the back and get on a call, buy our course, buy this,
Sure.
and then it's like, oh, and then I went, and I said, well, let me just go to one more, and I went to another one. I went in Fort Lauderdale, and it was actually my partner that we bought the 13 unit with.